In the words of my favorite humanitarian, Nelson Mandela, there is no greater revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. Sri Lanka, once known as the Pearl of the Indian Ocean, is where I experienced violence of a brutal terrorist war for 30 years, both as a child growing up and as an adult physician healing those child soldiers forced into terrorism and violence. The island paradise is now officially at peace for the past decade. Yet, within the last 14 months, 7 children have been physically and sexually abused and murdered. Not a single person of authority has flinched to protect our children. Whilst having the honor of being the only country in South Asia committed to Sustainable Developmental Goal 16.2 to end violence against children, 30 years after ratifying the UNCRC, child protection is a national crisis in my paradise. I dedicate these 7 minutes to those 7 lives snatched and 4.2 million children at risk in Sri Lanka. This is a call out to you, yes, you, my friends, and the leaders of the world, to rally stronger and bolder. Like all activists, I too turned adversity to advocacy when my own 11-year-old daughter was subjected to corporal punishment and mental abuse in an international school in Sri Lanka. The image of my vivacious, beautiful girl, curled up in a fetal position, is one that I will carry to my grave, which no parent would have to suffer. Over the years, my daughter came home with stories of being forced to kneel down, knock on the head, pulling of the ears. I was shocked and concerned. I complained to the school authorities that this form of abuse was not simply outdated, but unacceptable. I was particularly concerned about the girls having to kneel in front of the male teachers, endorsing an archaic mentality that women needed to be submissive. I appealed to the school board for a transparent complaints mechanism, safeguarding policy, and child psychology training for all staff, but nothing changed. Instead, they bullied my child, harassing her and urging her to leave the school and harassing us on social media. As she fell deeper into mental despair, she stopped going to school, her grades plummeted, and she refused to participate in tennis as a top 10 national ranked tennis player. That was the spark that led me to work more urgently and passionately to end corporal punishment. But little did I realize that this was an endemic issue in most schools. We have a proverb: a curry that is not stirred and a child that is not beaten are both spoiled. It is engraved into our culture, often impossible to confront. None of the international schools are regularized by the Ministry of Education, leaving thousands of children vulnerable and unguarded by the state, contrary to the constitutional rights. Another fun fact I was not familiar with. No one was willing to take responsibility for the abuse happening within my daughter's school. Every single one of those systems was failing my child, who was formally diagnosed with severe mental abuse on 3 separate occasions. The education system, child protection, law enforcement, human rights, and the judiciary. When I took my daughter's case to the Supreme Court, I was confronted with an eruption of laughter. I realized they were failing other children too. As we speak right now, there are over 20,000 cases backlogged at the Attorney General's Department as far as 10 years, and my child is now just a number. When the Supreme Court refused to grant leave to proceed, we filed a petition at the UN Human Rights Committee, registered as the world's first case of 11-year-old against corporal punishment. The state party has responded in March of this year. Although delayed by COVID, we are confident that the final deliberation, which is a public document, will have huge implications to end this heinous crime globally. In our quest To end corporal punishment, we established the Stop Child Cruelty Trust, a charitable organization, with children and the youth, the true beneficiaries of the future, directly involved in our campaigns. Our intensive advocacy work and indefatigable efforts to raise awareness has elevated corporal punishment to a daily topic of conversation where the pendulum has swung in favor of eliminating this archaic practice. We have been appointed as the only civil society organization by the Ministry of Justice to a committee on juvenile law reforms. We have established Sri Lanka's first ever child protection alliance with 20 credible NGOs to strengthen our voice in advocacy. Although much more needs to be done, I am energized by the changes achieved at the highest level. In February this year, the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka gave a historic decision denouncing corporal punishment and referencing UNCRC directly for the first time. We are now campaigning vigorously to get those directives implemented via Parliament. My friends, change is coming, slowly but surely. It requires a triangular, well-balanced effort, society's willingness to change attitudes, and effective law enforcement and visionary leadership. I appeal to the governments of the world, the leaders who are listening today, to end the rhetoric and work cohesively, holding each government responsible and accountable to end corporal punishment.
You're watching the Lifetraveler channel.